The push to replace Biden on the 2024 ticket quieted in the aftermath of the attempted assassination of former President Trump. The DNC is planning to move quickly to confirm Biden as the party's nominee by the end of July through a virtual roll call weeks before the Democratic convention in Chicago. That would mean Biden would only have to face internal turmoil for just 2 more weeks. The DNC sped-up plan angered some lawmakers, and a letter circulated among congressional Democrats that argued there's no legal justification for an early virtual roll call. Several Democrats, including Representatives Susan Wild, Mike Quigley, and Pat Ryan, told Axios they plan to sign on to the letter. Now, the DNC Rules Convention Committee seemed to have heard their concerns and sent out a letter in response this morning saying the virtual roll call to nominate Biden will now happen in August. The letter sent to the Convention Rules Committee was first reported by CBS, and it said, quote, "None of this will be rushed. Unlike our nation's other major political party, our rules are set in public meets, anchored in the party's charter and its traditions."
Meanwhile, President Biden is forging ahead with his campaign. He was in Las Vegas yesterday speaking at the National NAACP convention, where he was expected to announce a new 5% cap on rental increases nationwide. Instead, said this. Let's watch.
The idea that corporate-owned housing is able to raise your rent $300-400 a month or something, but I'm about to announce it can't raise it more than 50.
This clip, where he started off by criticizing Trump, also went viral. Let's watch.
Here's what he thinks of black jobs. I love his phrase, black jobs. It tells a lot about the man and about his character. Folks, I know what a black job is. It's the Vice President of the United States.
Latest polling by Reuters Ipsos shows that Biden is trailing Trump 41% to 43%. So the move to get Biden the official status as the candidate is, I guess, off for now. It was very funny. They suggested let's just move this ahead while the news cycle is favorable to Biden being the candidate. For some reason, even though nothing fundamentally changed from the Biden perspective, in fact, if anything's changed, it's that Democrats are feeling even more hopeless in the wake of Trump surviving an assassination attempt, the party really rallying behind him. You know, you had Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Marco Rubio, Vivek, people who, Vivek is not someone who opposed him, technically running against him though, but the rest, ideological rivals and opponents of him all falling in line. There's massive unity. There is no opposition to Donald Trump whatsoever on the Republican side. This is his moment. And the idea that you would just let Biden off the hook for all his problems because, I don't know, it's pointless to even try, seems to be what some Democrats at least are thinking. But now there was a big kerfuffle over whether moving it early was going to mess with the, what was it, votes in Georgia or Ohio? I can't actually remember.
Ohio, yeah. So this was a whole exchange. Jamie Harrison on Twitter talked about, moving forward. Nate Silver took a liking to this. I don't know. I don't agree with his model, but I agree with how he's hard on Jamie Harrison, who's, the chair of the Democratic Party at the national level. And Nate was like, Jamie Harrison's lying in these news articles and in his statements. He's saying that, there's a law in Ohio that the votes have to be in by August 7th, I believe was the exact number, first week of August. Yes, August 7th. And there's actually no such law. And Jamie Harrison responds and says, Nate, you can call me a lot of things, but a liar's not one of them. So here we have Jamie Harrison and Nate Silver going tit for tat on Twitter over the legality of a presidential nomination. That's what's happening here. And so Jamie Harrison gets community noted on X. It's tagged to the legislator of Ohio's actual bill. That passed, so this is law. The virtual nomination is not necessary if this bill that establishes a September 6th deadline takes effect on September 1st. it leaves 6 days for the Democrats to file the necessary paperwork. So they would have enough time. And Jamie Harrison is trying to say, we don't have enough time. We have to, do this in a rushed way because of X, Y, and Z state laws. They're very complicated. It's just not true.
Yeah.
It's an excuse because they want Biden to be the nominee.
Of course. Yeah, Nate Silver has been vocal. I mean, Nate Silver is always right from my perspective generally. But Nate Silver has very much been leading the kind of charge to replace Biden. I mean, he's not an activist within the party, just as a pollster, as a pundit, someone saying that Democrats really would need to make a gamble to improve their odds of winning the presidency by replacing Biden. That's something that a lot of people were talking about last week, but the media has moved on at least to some other subject. Now, I've heard that I read some stuff about behind the scenes Nancy Pelosi yesterday, maybe still interested in doing this. It's still being talked about, but I didn't think it was going to happen, and it certainly doesn't look like it's going to happen now.
Well, Jamie Harrison has to backtrack now because even if it is August 7th, there's no reason to push a roll call to next week as he was trying to do. Yeah. And I think at the heart of this is the donors are the main sway for the party. Everyone that's trying to win a down ballot seat, all of those Democrats that are hopeful in swing states to win a Senate seat, they will be impacted if their party doesn't have an influx of money for advertising. And so a Biden nomination would really hurt the party for years in the future. It would hurt their chances of securing a majority in the Senate. And really, if what they're afraid of is a Donald Trump presidency and democracy being in peril, they're going to need the legislator to be able to combat whatever's going on in the executive branch. So it's just the ego-driven reality of Biden wanting to be president, even though he knows he's not fit to serve. He shouldn't have to be answering for his cognitive state this close to November. He would be 86 by the time he's done. And so I think even though the media has moved on because there was an assassination attempt, behind the scenes we've got those donors and Republicans down ballot working pretty hard.
Well, and Biden is doing nothing to reassure anyone. His performance in the Lester Holt interview the other day was better than his debate performance, but that's not saying very much. This speech that we played snippets of, there was a lot of incoherence and confusion and losing track of what he was saying going on there. This is just going to keep going on. You're right that the chances of winning the presidency are seeming more and more distant, and that's going to start affecting the down ballot races. Already, Dems had a not great Senate map for this cycle, and then in next year the next cycle they have a brutal map. We were hearing at the Republican National Convention yesterday from a lot of their Senate candidates in Arizona, Nevada, West Virginia, Montana. All these states where there's a range of possibilities. Yes, Dems could hold on. Arizona's going to be very competitive. Nevada's going to be very competitive. A Democrat won in the Nevada race in the midterms. In West Virginia, that's a state that Trump won by a gazillion percentage points in the last election. That's going to be an almost certain Republican pickup. Montana, John Tester looks very vulnerable. In Maryland, the Republican Larry Hogan is a very formidable challenger. And even you have we heard from the Virginia candidate yesterday. The Michigan candidate is actually not decided yet. That was interesting. The RNC had. The Michigan primary has not happened yet to determine who's going to be the Republican Senate candidate, but they had one of the candidates speak and not the other. I found that to be an interesting development. But anyway, it's going to be chaos for Democrats down ballot if Biden performs this badly. So I can see why. But just resignation seems to be setting in, not defiance. I know, it's not. They don't need to give up entirely. Biden is at his lowest point, his lowest likelihood of being reelected. It doesn't mean he's at 0%. This will still be a relatively close election, I expect. We're still talking about a handful of very competitive swing states where Trump is now up, but he's not up by 20 points. He's up by a couple points. Now, if the polls are as off as they were last time, then he's up by even more. And yes, it's outside the potential for Biden to win it. But you won't know until Election Day.
And it seems that Republicans are pushing hard for local races. They have a stronghold in a lot of state legislators across the country. Iowa is one of the states that is just all Republicans. And so I think about my home state of North Carolina right now, not the state I grew up in, but where I live and my family lives. Governor Cooper has made the state one of the few southern states that's welcomed in women seeking abortion, whereas a lot of other states have passed very strong abortion bans surrounding them. But Cooper's termed out. He can't run again this time around, and it's an election between Mark Robinson and Josh Stein. This is an election that could turn North Carolina back into a Republican state at the state level. That has huge ramifications. And so at the national level, the congressional races are hugely important, but also at the local level, Democrats could be hurt. And this is precisely where the abortion legislation that's been passed has been the most restrictive for women. So thinking about the down ballot ticket, it makes sense why so many Democrats are coming out and saying we've got to replace this guy, because it could influence the party for years and years to come if he ends up being the nominee and it hurts them that badly, not just at the national level, but also on these down ballot races at the state and local level.
The pain is unrelenting. The beatings will continue until morale improves. That seems to be the Democratic slogan right now. More Rising right after this.